as quickly to address supply chain efficiency as some organizations have demanded. In fact, according to the research, many procurement functions have struggled to raise their game beyond simple tactical activity and renegotiating low-cost contracts to a broader and more strategic role within the wider business. The expectation of procurement are shifting. Not so long ago, procurement was considered to be an add-on service. It was a business that decided which supplies were core to the organization, and little more was expected of procurement than to battle some cost out of the contract and then hand the relationship back to business to manage. Today, however, many executives are increasingly looking to procurement, and supply chain sustainability will once again become a key challenge for business, and more focus will be placed on leveraging systems and technology to drive greater value, innovation, and market differentiation from suppliers. Good afternoon. My name is Deben Moza, and I'm your host for the Fireside show. We are talking to top performer and procurement expert about his strategies to optimize cost and performance. I'm really happy to have one of the leaders of the industry and a good friend, Arvind Kumar. Welcome, Arvind. So we'll start our conversation with the question, which we've been discussing for quite some time. Does a centralized procurement operating model provide better value and performance to the organization?
So first of all, I want to say thanks a lot, Deben, to introduce me, and thanks for having this opportunity to speak to all of you. At least I'm happy that you're on the other side of the table shooting at me this time around. So it's good. Hopefully you enjoy the 1 hour we have.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it thoroughly. It's a payback time.
So, something interesting. I think you make a point, right? For me, the centralization, I've been in various organizations throughout my career globally, locally, and I worked in India for about 6-7 years as a chief procurement officer. One of the interesting parts that I felt over the years working in this line is that decentralization of functions, especially sourcing and procurement, sometimes doesn't bring the value addition that we need in terms of delivering the overall optimization story. What is happening is over the years, we continue to see that people become very tactical in this process. And that's one of the reasons why I feel sometimes, organizations don't achieve the maximum gains or efficiency in a program, especially working with vendor partners or supplier partners, because it's looked at in a myopic view at a tactical level of a transaction. The larger we get and the bigger the organization is, we need to have more strategic outlook and thinking, and especially drive towards a category-based strategy on how to build a supply chain model that truly then aggregates spend volumes, the business strategies across the group, and then brings a synergy to help develop the right strategy that allows us to save money. Saving money cannot come at the cost. A lot of people think procurement is all about cutting costs. Yep, that's the nature of the job, and that's what people expect. But I strongly have a different view over the years working in the business across the world, is partners and vendors, you call them partners, vendors, suppliers in different terminologies, for me, are an integral part of the success story of an organization. Procurement is only successful when partners deliver the value. And we cannot use always the approach of beating down a company or a partner to get the cost out, because at the end of the day, everybody is in business to make money and everybody can only do so much to drive value. So therefore, it's very integral to be successful in today's time, especially post-COVID, that we drive a strategy that enables our partners to better understand the way they work, better understand the way the supply chain works, better understand the way the organization works, to really create the right strategic approach in developing a model that allows a partner to appreciate the challenges we deal as customers or clients, to work together and bring about a change and really relook at the supply chain end to end and come up with the right value proposition. I work with businesses a lot in NTT. We have hundreds of companies and stakeholders across the world. And a lot of times people always come and tell me, Arvind, great to save money, but don't do it at the cost of quality and the cost of business, right? Sometimes people have to understand that pushing a supplier too deep, too strong, can have other impacts that you're not expecting today because people will start cutting corners. So I think the success story I have seen over the years working in this business across so many lines of work is there are deals and there are great deals. Deals are what you beat down and do tactical work and get outcomes. But great deals are deals where there's a long-term payout, much bigger value generated. And those are the specialized projects that people do where you really have thought about and looked at the end-to-end model and truly delivered value, right? And that comes with a partnering approach. That comes with understanding the business. That comes with solving the problems, looking at both sides to make sure that we build a win-win strategy. For me, the best outcome of any deal with any partner is when both of us leave the table shaking hands, coming up with an outcome that we both are satisfied with and live through, right? A deal is not one-sided that makes you feel a great success story happening. A deal is when both parties can gain, both parties can give, and we both are successful and enjoy working together on the output of it.
So I have a question in terms of, which is a follow-up question for this. We talk about the advantages of centralized procurement versus decentralized procurement. But do you find it would it's a challenge because in your role you're dealing with lots of businesses. You have vendor partners in a lot of countries, so there's always that cultural disconnect. How do you address that? Because you have to know, for example, in India, you have to know how Indians think, how Indians work. The same yardstick won't work for a US vendor. So how do you manage that?
Very interesting, right? Deben, in my career, I've worked in more than 60 countries across the globe, right? And I even today oversee a business that's in over 90 countries. Being born Indian, I feel everybody thinks we are a negotiator because you see your mom negotiating, you see your wife negotiating, you see yourself negotiating, from buying fruits to buying corporate equipment. We feel we are all great negotiators, right? So Indians have that, I think, built into our DNA. But as you move across the world, you see people think differently, act differently, and work differently. One of the aspects you touch is very, very critical. And over the years, I've been in international business more than 16 years now. And one of the biggest challenges is cultural in global business. And, in Middle East, certain times you go to a meeting and the way you sit, talk, and engage with them can either insult them or can make the best of your friends in doing business. So I think one of the important aspects is before you go negotiating anything, I think we need to do a little bit due diligence on the country, on the culture, and how basics of business work. Because that's very sentimental and emotional to people. And sometimes in the right of intentions, you actually piss people off if you do something wrong without understanding the impact. Second thing, when you work globally, I think the common message is still the same, is how to be strategic in nature when you engage with any company. I think as long as you respect the vendor partners, you respect the outcome, and you understand and clearly articulate the needs of our business as a client, then you set the right medium of exchange and the right tone of business. And truly, in the way you execute and be actionable, should be strategic in nature to allowing people to know that the right intention of this deal, end of the day, is to achieve a certain outcome. And in that outcome-driven process, you are going to take care of all different sectors and sides of the story. As long as you do that and your actions demonstrate the words you speak, the end outcome is always the best in nature. I have negotiated deals, example, in Brazil, where I had a chance to work in south of Brazil, where there was nobody speaking English. So I literally had to take a translator with me and negotiate a real estate deal for a BPO construction build in a small town in South Brazil, where it's a textile town, and they were going out of business. So they were all this real estate, but great talent. And we had a couple of big clients of ours who come from that region. So I was sent there to go negotiate a deal, which was very complicated. And even the local Brazilians were not able to work through them. So I had to take a translator who would stay for 7 days and find a way to engage And interestingly, the owner of that textile mill was Lebanese. So I was able to find a common bond because I worked in Middle East many years and I know a lot of Lebanese people. So I was able to find a common bond with him that connected me as compared to my local Brazilian staff that were failing constantly in this deal. And through that small engagement and alignment and cultural connect, I was able to move towards executing a successful deal, and we had the best outcome over the project. So I think it's a matter of how you look at people, how you understand culture, what is the background in various things to really make a connect. And once you make a connect and the sincerity of the outcome is clear, you will see a much better positive outcome in the end.
Okay, thanks for that. Now, my next question is, how can procurement function integrate their role in supply chain risk management into the organization's overall risk process, strategy, and execution?
So, Deben, that's a very interesting part, right? People look at procurement and sourcing as the entry into an organization. And today, risk is in many factors. Risk is in countries way of working, risk is in the vendor's operations, risk is in global dynamics of what's happening in the commodities in the areas. So I think the key part is, first of all, when you evaluate partners, I think, I have a very different belief than a lot of others. For me, a partner being a startup versus being a big global enterprise conglomerate. For me, I look at all aspects of it, right? So, and there are different risk levels at different paces, but there's a different outcome that you're also evaluating when you evaluate partners. So for me, the most important part is when you do a due diligence of a company, right? You understand the risk of the project, first of all, you're engaged in. Then when you're looking at partners, you select partners through a certain criteria that we evaluate based on commercial, based on technical, based on their supply chain capability, based on their history, based on the size and scale. And sometimes, here is the difference between great procurement organizations who deliver outstanding results to average results. You might find great partners in the small, medium sector size of scale, have some outstanding capability, but may have some serious risk issues because the size and scale and capability of inexperience on a larger platform is not there. That is where I think people like us who have been in the business long enough know what is the level of risk appetite my organization can take, the project can take, and the supplier is challenged with, to come up with a model to help give the support as a bigger company, bigger organization, to help mitigate the supply chain challenges, mitigate the risk on the table, to still allow them to be successful. Because what I've seen is in some of those cases, which is a risky affair, but they're delivering results that are above normal than standard bigger players. So to take that balance, it's a little bit extra work on our part as sourcing professionals, but then if you manage it and mitigate it and really show that, and that's where I talk about the partnership element comes into play in the longer term of how you build these relationships in the ecosystem, the success is much, much better, right? So mitigation of supply chain risk, Deben, is a combination of factors. And I think it's about how our organization is willing to take the level of risk, managing the level of risk, and to execute that partnership. I think that's the difference between, whether you engage with the company or not.
So how do you support your vendor partners in terms of their development? You might engage with a smaller vendor partner, and with the journey with you will also need to look at how he's growing in terms of catering to your needs. So do you invest in development of vendor partners?
Absolutely, right? I'm a strong believer of investing in partners because over the years, I've worked all over the world. Some of the best solutions and some of the best people who have supported bigger companies like us, multi-billion-dollar revenue companies, on critical deals, where these small, medium companies, more than bigger companies have the strength and might to do it all. But when it came to certain key situations, it is these small organizations that really stepped up. And part of the Deben is a twofold approach for me, right? I direct all my team members to always evaluate the merit of the people behind the organization, the expertise they bring, and the organization and what they're delivering. Second, as a bigger player and a bigger client who gives value and opportunity to all these companies. I have an obligation to, when we find right partners, to step up, educate. I develop and mentor their CEOs. I help and develop the organization executives in terms of running the business. We find best practices. We take examples of failures to make it a success story. We also evaluate the people and the ability for them to grow. And we offer them a scale and a platform to become bigger and larger with our company. So that's one of the stories in Sunnyvale that I've been working. Knight Frank actually executed a deal for me in Sunnyvale, and we just are finishing construction of one of the world's smartest building in NTT. And we have incorporated, and I just written an article about it in an interview. We created an amazing story of bringing together 50 companies into this one small construction project, so 45,000 square feet project. But we had 50 companies, from the biggest boys of like Dell to the smallest companies from India called FCT Energy. And we brought them all together to create this amazing story in Silicon Valley. A lot of challenges, but we found great opportunity to demonstrate what NTT can do. And in NTT vision, we feel we are the enabler, and we have an obligation to companies in the community and companies globally who offer innovative solutions to be the mentor, be the platform to help them not only be successful, but also take them to the next level as part of our growth story and make them bigger and better players. And through that process, we help generate revenue for them, generate revenue for NTT, and we help mitigate risk, and we help train and develop them and mentor them through this program to be much more successful than just transacting on a piece of paper. So it's a very different approach. It's a different approach. It pays off on the long run, and it pays off much more dividends than we expect today in a stranded transaction.
Thank you. Okay, now NTT being a technology company, so what will it take for procurement to drive maximum value from their systems and technology investments? So how much do you invest in technology for your procurement needs?
That's an interesting aspect, Deben, right? So for me, tools and technology in the procurement vertical, tools like SAP, Ariba, and so on, right? Coupa and all. These are transactional tools that help streamline, automate certain process improvements from a back office transactional perspective. They do not help drive the bigger strategy of how to manage the supply chain, how to build a vendor network, how to really grow and mentor them and maximize the benefit. So we as a company in NTT are constantly, we are a big SAP shop. So we are constantly enforcing a 3 to 5 year roadmap. So as companies come into play, we have hundreds of companies from all sizes and scales across the world. And we are ensuring that as time comes over a period of time, we are able to bring them onto the same common platform so that there's a certain efficiency, because systems talk. Finance system talks to procurement system talks to vendors outside the network, and so on and so forth. So a lot of automation comes into play. But that's truly helping the efficiency on back office operations to be more effective so that we can create shared service centers. And through those shared service centers, we support a much larger audience in the business world, right? But technology, for me, that's that part of the process. But then there's a second part of technology around automation, around AI, and so on, that can help you be smarter and better. So, for example, we are implementing an AI product right now that can help you do a quick due diligence for M&A and quick due diligence for contracts. So when a supplier contract comes in 50, 80 pages, we have programmed it in such a way that a category buyer can run it through a system. Within minutes, it pops up all the critical areas. You can scan through it, and it gives you the differences, gaps, and highlights areas that you can quickly glance. So something what takes hours or sometimes days can be done in a few hours or minutes, and it can help speed the process up. So you're more efficient, you make less mistakes, and you miss less things. So these are some of the tools that we are starting to implement, and those I see are a huge benefit to how an operating model works. Therefore, allowing category directors and buyers and managers to spend more time on the business. I feel if we don't have tools, it is taking away a lot of time from what I would like to do as a leader and my team members to spend time in the business. We need to spend more time in the business to know the business. Then based on that, we are smarter to go into the market. So I don't know if people are on or not, right? So, okay. So Deben, I think the last, just finishing that statement, was that I believe businesses should be smart enough to bring the right tools and technology for two reasons. One is getting the job done, allowing the tactical operations to improve. And on the strategic level, people like us who negotiate deals, work with partners, have to spend time with business, gives us more time rather than doing tactical work to be strategic in nature, spend time with the business, spend time with the suppliers in the network, and make the right deals happen, right? I would rather have my people spend more time doing that than sitting and doing, process work that's taking hours and hours away from their precious time. So that's where I see Deben the use. There's a lot of technology out there. So I think it's important that companies evaluate based on where the priorities should be and what they're trying to tackle as a problem, find the right partners in the ecosystem to implement and really improve the way they work.
Thanks. I think the final question I have before we go to the chat box and see what the questions the audience is posting. And it's a very interesting question. And I don't think there would be any better person from, other than you to answer this. What will it take to elevate procurement into strategic role worthy for a seat at boardroom table?
It's very interesting you say that, Deben. I think the key is, first of all, is leadership. I think we have to have the right leadership mindset. My boss, global CEO Mark, is an amazing leader. He's a former CFO. His whole career, he came to run a global sourcing organization. And what is impressive is his ability to take the value we bring. And the reason I say leadership, because we as sourcing functions bring great value. Like I said, it's not about just cost. In NTT Global Sourcing, while we do cost management, but we also spend a lot of time generating revenue for the company. It's a very unique way of working, right? We are a revenue generating support arm and a cost arm. So therefore, I think the most important part now is leadership skills and leadership mindset to driving the value and showing the value of what global sourcing or sourcing organizations deliver, and focusing sourcing to become more of a revenue generation arm while the cost focus remains, will earn us a seat at the board table. And that's what exactly my boss has done. He's created an amazing story in the last 2 years. We've delivered way more than our targets year after year since we were formed. And today we sit at the highest level of the companies, at the executive boardrooms, with the CEOs, and are truly taken together in deals, internally and externally, to drive the value of the company. And that's what is the difference.
So do you see yourself becoming a CEO of the company 3 years down the line?
At least I know right now I'm deputy CEO. We are two guys delivering the results. So my boss, there's two of us, me and another peer of mine who runs all IT and services. So both of us play that role. Absolutely. I feel I run my own business under my boss. And I manage a multi-billion-dollar portfolio globally for NTT Group of companies and support us in all ventures. So absolutely, I would love to strive to be that leader one day. I've reached a certain level at a corporate global organization, and I continue to strive for success. And, hopefully one of these days I achieve that role. But in the meantime, I still believe that I contribute every day, keeping that mindset, Deben, and keeping that success story in the company. And I always tell my people, right? Everybody comes to the table with a problem. When they come to the table with a problem, for us to be successful, we need to come to the table with a solution. Do not get caught up talking problems all day long, because everybody does that. The differentiator between us and them is we talk solution. So that's one of the principles I follow every day. Whenever my team members come to me, right, and have 10 issues to talk about, my first ask to them is, what have you done to figure out a solution? If you've not, go back to the drawing board, come back with a plan, then let's talk. Because when you have a different approach, that's when you're successful. And Deben, I'll tell you something. This year, my team and my organization delivered nearly 150 to 100, I think 40% to target, right, in a COVID year, which is very tough. And we did it in 3 quarters of the year, financial year. So we did an outstanding job. But the reason we did that is not because we were working harder. Yes, we did work hard. But also it was because we were strategic. We found the right deals. We focused the right effort. And we did some innovative, creative deal structuring and negotiation that brought us above average results. So I think unless you have that outlook in life and work, I don't think you can make it successful, the level you want. And of course, the most important, consider the company's money more than your own money. I can blow my own money without being accountable for it. But a company's money is a lot more precious. And I every day strive with my organization to make sure every dollar spent has a value to it. And we deliver that value every day.
Now, finally, a personal question. You start your day with Japan opening and end your day with US opening, right? Do you get time to sleep?
So that's an interesting question, Deben. Most of the people who know me know that I sleep maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours in a day maximum, sometimes 2 to 3 hours in a Monday to Friday. That's the challenge of a global role. And maybe I'm a bit crazy, I think, because I'm more passionate about it than maybe a lot of others. I enjoy what I do, Deben. For me, time, I don't see a lot of time. I just work because I'm passionate about it. I love what I do. And the way I have a different philosophy, when I'm tired, I go to bed. Otherwise, I keep working and delivering results, right? Because that's what I love to do. So yes, it's tough. Global jobs are very hard. It sounds great to say global, but it takes a lot out of you. And most of my team members will tell you that they have to stretch a lot between East Coast and the Western part of the world and managing the time in between. So it's a tough balance between work-life balance in this role. But what we try to do as leaders and we try to do as team members is work smartly, work effectively, and work. And when you're tired, take the break. And hopefully the weekends we avoid, doing extra work so that we can at least catch up with family and personal time off. But on the weekday, it's tough for me, but I'm used to it. I've been doing it 16 plus years. So right now, till the time I can do it, I think I continue, right? That's the way I look at it.
So your family is managing you well, right?
Exactly. I think they've got fed up by now. I think they've given up. So
great. It was very interesting, having a heart-to-heart chat with you, and I really got a lot of inspiration from you in terms of how you're managing a global role, and there's a lot to learn, and you are one of the icons in terms of how Indians are now taking up the strategic position with leading global organizations. And with this, I close my Q&A, and I would request Priyanka if she has to share any questions from the chat box.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Deben. We have pretty much covered all the questions for today, and I guess it was a very, very informative session happened. Thank you, Deben and Arvind. It was a pleasure to have you in the session, in the Fireside chat. It was very insightful. We had a lot of information on the same. So I think, I would also like to thank everybody who has joined us today in the session. And with this note, we can close this fire chat.
Thank you. And it was the interesting fire chat where, like Hindi movies, you had a break in between. So
yes,
it came as a surprise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a Bollywood style. After all, Deben, you resemble one of the top Bollywood stars, I think, the handsome, good-looking guy. So, it's a pleasure always. So everybody loves it. And like I said, I think the key is, Deben, and thanks a lot for everybody to give me this opportunity. But what I really love about it is to be able to share and a lot of you to go down the journey and really change the way we work. Because, being a supplier is hard. It's not easy, especially post-COVID times. It's much harder. And I think we all owe ourselves as professionals and as industry veterans to take the time and opportunity to not discount small players, not discount people who have a passion, who have a dream, trying to make it work. Give them a chance, because many times these are the companies that really make it big one day, and they change the way the world works. I think what I've learned over the years is to give everybody an opportunity, be kind, be helpful, and support them in the best possible way as leaders, and share the knowledge we've learned over the years. And I think that's what makes it a successful story for all.
And great to see a softer side of a very tough negotiator and a very, very hard negotiator and hardcore procurement guy. And it was good to see your softer side also today. Thank you so much. for the lovely conversation, and thank you everybody for attending the session.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day. Thank you, Deben.
Thank you.
Thanks.